You woke up last night, and the night before, and the night before that, not because you drank too much, not because of your age, not because there is anything wrong with your bladder. You have already tried restricting fluids after 6 p.m. You have tried going to bed earlier, you have tried sleeping pills, and you still wake up 2, 3, 4 times every night, shuffle to the bathroom, and come back to a bed that suddenly feels impossible to fall back into. Here is what nobody has told you clearly. The problem is not in your bladder. It never was. Your bladder is working exactly as it should. The problem is somewhere else entirely, and everything you have tried so far has been aimed at the wrong target. I am going to show you exactly what the real target is, why almost nobody knows about it, and the 4 specific rules that determine whether fixing it actually works. Because most people who have tried the solution I am about to describe used it incorrectly and concluded it does not work. The rules are what make the difference. Stay with me. Because rule number 4 is the one almost nobody follows, and it is the one that determines everything. I'm Dr. Jake Taylor. Before we go further, how many times do you wake up at night? Type your number in the comments right now. 1, 2, 3, or more. I want to know exactly what this community is dealing with. What is happening to you has a medical name. It is called Nocturia. Noctu from night, urea from urine. And here is the most important thing I want you to understand before anything else. The fact that it is common does not mean it is normal. The fact that millions of people over 60 experience it does not mean you have to accept it as the rest of your life. Most people believe the problem is in the bladder. The logic seems obvious. If the bladder could hold more, you would sleep better. So they stop drinking water, reduce fluids from midday, try to hold longer before bed, and they still wake up 2, 3, 4 times. Why? Because they are looking in the wrong place. And here is how you can confirm for yourself that your bladder is not the driver. Think about this question. Do you also have urgency during the day? Are you running to the bathroom every hour from morning to evening as well? If the answer is no, if your daytime urination frequency is completely normal, but you wake repeatedly at night, that tells you something precise. The bladder itself is not the issue. The brain's relationship with the bladder signal during sleep is the issue. Those are 2 entirely different problems with 2 entirely different solutions. You have been treating a daytime problem you do not have in order to fix a nighttime problem you do. I want you to hold an image in your mind. Imagine a house alarm that is so badly calibrated, it goes off at the slightest thing. A gust of wind, a distant car, a moth near the sensor. Every time it triggers, you get up, check the house, find nothing wrong. The alarm is not detecting a real emergency. It is simply too sensitive. That is exactly what is happening in your body at night. Your nervous system has become so alert, so unable to quiet itself, that it treats a partially full bladder as an emergency and wakes you up. Not because the bladder is full, because the alarm is miscalibrated. When sleep is genuinely deep, the brain does something extraordinary. It filters out signals that are not urgent. Your bladder can have urine in it. The brain registers the signal and dismisses it. Not urgent. Stay asleep. That is what happened when you were younger and slept through the night without issue. Your brain was making a decision. This can wait. When the nervous system stays in low-level alert mode all night, that same signal gets amplified into something that feels impossible to ignore. You wake up, you go, you come back, you lie there unable to return to sleep, and 2 hours later, it happens again. The question is not how to make your bladder hold more. The question is why your nervous system lost the ability to make that decision at 2 a.m. And the answer is connected to something so small, so silent, that most doctors never think to test for it. And there is one more thing about that 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. waking that I want you to consider. If your waking time is consistent, if it is almost always around the same hour every night, that is not coincidence. The body has an internal cortisol rhythm that begins rising in the early morning hours to prepare for waking. In a nervous system with intact inhibition, that signal is too subtle to disturb sleep. In a nervous system running without its brake pedal, even that gentle internal signal completes a full awakening. The time you wake up is a clue. We are going to come back to that at the end of this video. This is where it gets interesting, and this is the part that changes everything. Subscribe right now if this is making more sense than anything you have been told about this before. We publish every week. Takes 3 seconds. Subscribe and stay with me. Your nervous system has a brake pedal. A chemical signal called GABA, the brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter, is what tells neurons to stop firing at night, to quiet down, to let the system go offline. When GABA works properly, the nocturnal shutdown sequence completes. Non-urgent signals, including a bladder that is not yet full, are filtered out. Sleep deepens, you stay asleep. When GABA is impaired, the brake pedal loses its grip. The nervous system cannot quiet itself. Everything gets amplified. A bladder that is 40% full feels like a crisis. A small noise feels like a threat. Things that should be dismissed cannot be. And here is something most people with this problem have never been told. The nervous system's struggle to shut down at night is not limited to bladder signals. It shows up in other ways that you may have been experiencing and attributing to unrelated causes. Difficulty falling asleep even when exhausted, waking fully alert and unable to return to sleep after a bathroom visit, a mind that races the moment you lie down, sensitivity to small sounds that did not used to wake you, tension that does not fully release even when you are physically still. These are all expressions of the same underlying impairment, an inhibitory system that has lost its capacity to complete the shutdown sequence. They are not separate problems. They are different faces of the same deficit. Now here's the connection nobody is making in your doctor's office. GABA production depends directly on a specific nutrient, vitamin B1, also known as thiamine. Thiamine is the cofactor your nervous system requires to synthesize GABA efficiently. Without adequate thiamine, the brake pedal works poorly. With adequate thiamine, it works the way it should. Think of it like an orchestra. When every instrument plays at the right moment and volume, the result is music. When instruments keep playing when they should be silent, the result is noise. Your nervous system at night, without enough thiamine, is an orchestra that cannot stop playing. Every minor signal, including your bladder, becomes part of that noise. The brain registers all of it as equally important because it has lost the ability to sort urgent from non-urgent, and so you wake up. And here's what terrifies me most about this. Thiamine deficiency in adults over 60 is extraordinarily common, but it develops so quietly that almost nobody catches it. 4 reasons that almost always combine. First, intestinal absorption of thiamine declines with age. You can be eating well and still be deficient because the small intestine has become less efficient at extracting it from food. Second, sugar, caffeine, and alcohol all accelerate thiamine depletion. Every cup of coffee, every glass of wine, every sweet food draws from your reserves at an accelerated rate. Most people over 60 are depleting faster than they are replacing. Third, certain very common medications directly reduce thiamine levels. Loop diuretics, including furosemide, prescribed to millions of older adults for blood pressure and heart conditions, increase urinary excretion of thiamine directly. Many people are simultaneously taking the medication that depletes the nutrient they most need for sleep. Fourth, thiamine is almost never tested in routine blood work. A deficiency can develop over years without producing any daytime symptoms. Your doctor runs your standard panel. Everything looks normal. The gap goes undetected while your nights get worse and worse. James was 71, waking 3 to 4 times nightly for almost 2 years. He had reduced his fluid intake until he was mildly dehydrated during the day. His urologist found nothing wrong. His sleep study showed no apnea. Everything looked normal by conventional testing. When I looked at his medications and daily habits, the picture changed entirely. He had been on furosemide for 3 years. He drank 4 cups of coffee daily. He had wine with dinner most evenings. 3 separate thiamine-depleting factors operating simultaneously. None of them had been connected to his sleep by any physician he had seen. 8 weeks after addressing the thiamine deficiency, he was waking once per night, occasionally sleeping through entirely. His bladder had not changed. His nervous system had. Now, most people who have tried vitamin B1 and concluded it does not work made at least one of 4 specific errors. The nutrient is not the problem. The protocol is. And this is the part I need you to pay very close attention to. The first error is timing. Vitamin B1 is not a sleeping pill. It does not make you drowsy. It does not shut the body down. Its function is to restore the conditions for the brain's own shutdown sequence to work. That process needs time. Thiamine needs 2 to 3 hours to begin meaningfully influencing GABA synthesis after ingestion. Take it in the late afternoon or early evening, 2 to 3 hours before your target sleep time. Not immediately before bed. If you take it too close to sleep, the metabolic processing can produce a mild activating effect that works against what you are trying to do. You are setting up the conditions for sleep hours before sleep begins, not reaching for a tool at the last moment. The second error is dose. More is not better with B vitamins. The nervous system needs a consistent, adequate supply, not periodic flooding. Standard thiamine in doses of 50 to 100 milligrams daily is the studied range. Benfotiamine, a fat-soluble form that crosses the blood-brain barrier more efficiently, requires lower doses to achieve the same central effect and is often the better choice for this application. Always speak with your physician first, especially if you are taking diuretics or other medications. The third error is the one most people make: consistency. They take B1 for 3 or 4 nights, notice no dramatic change, and stop. But your nervous system learned its current nighttime pattern over months or years. It learned to stay alert. It learned to amplify those signals. Changing a learned neurological pattern requires consistent signaling over time, not a single intervention. The timeline for meaningful change is 4 to 12 weeks of daily consistent use. In the first 1 to 2 weeks, the changes are subtle. You may fall back asleep slightly faster after bathroom visits. The nervous system is beginning to receive the new signal. By weeks 3 and 4, frequency often begins to shift. 4 wakings become 2. 2 become 1. By weeks 6 to 8, the changes stabilize. The best analogy I have for this process is a tree that has been growing crooked for years. You cannot straighten it overnight. You put a support beside it, you give it time, and slowly it begins to grow in the right direction. Once it does, the new direction holds. The nervous system works the same way. Give it the right signal consistently, and it will relearn what it once knew. Dorothy was 68. She had tried B1 twice before, both times stopping after 5 or 6 days because nothing dramatic had happened. When she committed to 8 full weeks, at week 5 she called my office. She had slept through the night twice in the same week, first time in over a year. She told me, "I cannot believe I quit twice when I was probably only weeks away from this." The fourth error, the one almost nobody knows about, is regularity. Same dose, same time, every day without exception. The nervous system responds to predictable patterns. It is designed to detect regularity and build behavior around it. When you take thiamine at different times on different days or skip days, the signal is inconsistent. The nervous system receives noise rather than instruction, and noise maintains alertness rather than reducing it. Same dose, same time, every single day. That regularity is itself a form of communication that tells the nervous system everything is under control. And when the nervous system believes that, it finally begins to lower its guard. Now, before I give you the 4 conditions that make all of this work faster, I want to stop for a moment. If this video is giving you an explanation that finally makes sense of something you have been dealing with for a long time, please share it right now with someone you know who wakes up exhausted every morning. Do not wait until the end. Share it now. That person may have been looking for this for years. 4 additional conditions that amplify everything. None of them cost money. All of them directly support what the thiamine is trying to do. A deliberate transition before bed. Your nervous system spent the day in active mode. If you go directly from that to your bed, you are asking a system running at full capacity to immediately downshift. It cannot do that instantly. 30 minutes of screens off, low stimulation, slow breathing before bed is not optional enhancement. It is the beginning of the shutdown sequence. Those 30 minutes tell the nervous system the active part of the day is over. It can start the descent. Magnesium alongside the thiamine. Magnesium is the co-regulator of the GABA system. It amplifies the inhibitory pathways that thiamine helps build. Many adults over 60 are also deficient in magnesium. The combination of both deficiencies creates a doubly impaired brake system. Almonds, spinach, avocado, pumpkin seeds are the best dietary sources. If supplementing, magnesium glycinate causes the least digestive disruption. Talk to your physician first. Bedroom temperature between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Your body's core temperature must drop by approximately 2 degrees to transition into deep sleep. This is biology. If the room is too warm, the body works to release heat, and that effort fragments sleep without you realizing it. Warm bedding at cooler air temperature addresses both comfort and biology simultaneously. Front-loaded hydration. Drink adequately through the morning and early afternoon. Taper from around 5 p.m. This is not restriction, it is distribution. You are giving the body the fluid it needs during the hours it can process it, and reducing the load during the hours when processing it creates the problem you are solving. There is a fifth factor worth naming because it is the most consistently underestimated driver of nighttime nervous system arousal: unresolved worry. The nervous system does not distinguish between a physical signal and a psychological one. Chronic low-grade worry, the kind that surfaces the moment you lie down with nothing else occupying your mind, activates the same alert mechanisms as a genuine physical stimulus. It keeps the system in monitoring mode. It amplifies every minor sensation, including bladder pressure, into something that demands attention. Anything you do before bed to address this, whether writing unresolved thoughts onto paper before lying down, slow breathing for 5 minutes, a brief conversation that releases something you have been carrying since morning, directly supports the same biology as the thiamine, quieting the system so the brakes can engage. George was 76. He had resigned himself to waking 3 times every night for 7 years. He had restructured his entire life around it. Separate bedrooms so he would not disturb his wife. No evening plans because he was always too tired the next day. When I asked how long it had been going on, he said 7 years, 7 years of a correctable deficiency. At 10 weeks, he was waking once per night. At 14 weeks, twice a week, he slept completely through. He told me, I moved back into the bedroom. My wife cried. Helen was 73, 3 years of broken sleep. 2 physicians had told her Nocturia was normal at her age and she should simply accept it. When I looked at her situation, she had been on hydrochlorothiazide for blood pressure for 4 years, 3 cups of caffeinated tea daily, low dietary thiamine intake because she had been following a restricted diet, every factor pointing in the same direction. At 6 weeks after starting the protocol correctly, she was waking once per night. At 3 months, she called my office and said, I forgot what it felt like to wake up and not already be tired. I remember now. She had not been broken. Her nervous system had been operating without a critical component of its braking system for years. When the component was restored, the system worked the way it always should have. The reason I share these stories is not to promise you will have the same outcome. Every person's situation is different. If your nighttime waking comes with pain, with burning, with blood in the urine, with fever, with unexplained weight loss, or if symptoms are worsening week on week, those are signals that require medical evaluation, not a supplement protocol. What I am describing today is for functional nocturia, the kind where everything tests normal and the nervous system is the driver. That is the most common presentation by far. But the other possibilities need to be ruled out. For those of you in the functional category, the timeline to expect is this. In the first 1 to 2 weeks, changes are internal and subtle. The nervous system is beginning to register the new signal, but has not yet shifted its pattern. You may notice you fall back asleep slightly faster after bathroom visits. That is the first indicator. By weeks 3 and 4, frequency begins to change. The 4 wakings become 2, the 2 become 1. By weeks 6 to 8, the changes consolidate into a stable new pattern. The nervous system has learned that it is safe to lower its guard, and the nights that follow feel different in a way that is hard to describe until you experience it. Not just fewer interruptions, deeper, more restoring, the kind of sleep that changes how the next day feels from the first moment you open your eyes. That is what sleep is supposed to do. It is what it was doing for you before this started, and it is what it can do again. You are not broken. Your nervous system learned a pattern of nighttime alertness in response to a nutrient gap that nobody identified and nobody addressed. When the gap is closed consistently and the conditions that support it are in place, the pattern changes, not because something external forced it to, because the system was given what it needed to work the way it was always designed to work. That distinction matters. This is not about overriding your biology with a substance. It is about restoring the conditions for your biology to do what it already knows how to do. Sleep deeply. Filter the non-urgent. Let the night be what it is supposed to be. Your body has been trying to do exactly this for as long as the problem has existed. It simply has not had the raw materials it needs to succeed. The people who get the most from this protocol are the ones who approach it with patience rather than urgency. They commit to 8 weeks before reassessing. They keep the 4 conditions in place every day, not just on the nights when they feel motivated. They track their wake-up times, notice the patterns, and understand that gradual change accumulating over weeks is not a sign of failure. It is the nervous system doing the only thing it can do, adapting slowly, consolidating carefully, building a new pattern on top of the old one. If you are someone who has been waking up exhausted for months or years, who has tried restricting fluids and going to bed earlier and taking sleep aids and found none of it worked, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not failing. You are solving the wrong problem. The right problem has a different solution, and that solution is available to you starting this week. One last thing. The timing of when you wake up at night is not random. Always 2 a.m. is biologically different from always 4 a.m. Each pattern tells a specific story about your nervous system's alert cycle. In a future video, I am going to explain exactly what each timing means and what additional steps you can take based on your specific pattern. So, write your wake-up time in the comments right now, not just for me, because when you write it, other people in this community who wake at the same hour will see it and know they are not alone in this. And because the pattern you describe may tell me something important about what your nervous system specifically needs next. If today gave you something useful, share it with someone who has been too tired for too long without knowing why, someone who has accepted broken sleep as their new normal, someone who was told this is just aging and there is nothing to be done. That conversation might be the one that finally points them toward the right answer. I'm Dr. Jake Taylor. Subscribe if you have not already. Sleep well, because everything else in your health follows from that. I'll see you in the next video.